Hello, this is Justin Matthew. Welcome to Second Nature. Our contemporary world is experiencing a condition called planetary urbanization or urban explosion. Urban explosion means massive and unprecedented extension of urbanization since the mid 20th century. Now, urbanization is not confined to the cities or towns. The entire planet is coming under direct dominance of city condition, urban condition, economically, ecologically, and spatially. So in that context, our society has deeper interest in natural world. We have a deep interest to know how earlier societies live their rural life or a pre-urbanization world. Or put in a different way, our civilization, modern civilization, has an emerging consciousness called environmental consciousness as a driving principle of a society, especially in the context of the climate crisis and other related environmental degradation and issues. So this green consciousness opened up a new field of historical inquiry. We started asking new questions to have a better understanding of both our present and a different dimension to understand the past societies and their life. Now, if we go back to the classical Antiquity, that is ancient Rome, ancient Greece and Rome, and their life. So we know that we have a lot of political history works, and we have fascinating movies produced by great filmmakers. We have great paintings, romantic paintings, including our great French artist Jacques-Louis David and his paintings. And we also have great novelists to provide us a beautiful image of, illustrate the life of the ancient Mediterranean world and their kings and their warfare, everything. So in a sense, we know their political history. And we also know their economic history to a limited extent. But we study their economic history in terms of mode of production, largely mode of production debate, slavery, mode of production, whether we can consider ancient Greco-Roman world as a society shaped by slavery, or was it the dominant mode of surplus extraction? So those questions are relevant. But along with that, now we have historians to write histories of ancient Greek or ancient Roman forest landscape or gardens, their agriculture, and their human-animal interaction, and how to understand that history. So to better know, or we are keen to understand their lives of ancient Mediterraneans and their environmental awareness. Then the major challenge is not to apply our notions to understand an earlier society. Like, when we have to be extremely careful when we ask, were the ancient people ecologically minded about their environmental consciousness. Remember, even before 30 years ago, when you study Greco-Roman history, ancient Mediterranean world history, landscape transformation was not a concern, a major concern for a historian. Or take another example, even today, if you see a UG or PG syllabus, syllabi on course outline on classical antiquity, landscape transformation is not a major concern, right? Or we don't study human-animal interaction as a major factor, or we do not consider dam construction, road building as a constitutive an important element of Roman imperial system or imperial formation. So that means we have a vague idea of Italian landscape formation and its active role in shaping their state, society, and their reality. So, but at the same time, we have a wonderful discipline, archaeology, emerging as a field that would help us to understand, study these elements. So especially archaeology as a discipline with its modern facilities, modern methodologies, help us to study towns and how towns, cities integrate villages as part of the system, so emerging social system. So this has a great scope when we understand, when we apply the context of ancient Roman world. So Rome. Now let's come to Rome, ancient Rome. So you can see this map. Rome was located in central Italy on the bank of river Tiber, as we all know. And the origin of the settlement, Roman settlement, dates back to 9th or 8th century BCE. So Rome had its humble beginning, but it expanded by incorporating the surrounding Latium region, the Italian peninsula. So conventional historians classify Roman history into three different phases. There were 753 to 509. That was the years of Roman origin, and 509 to 31 BCE. That's the time of era of Roman Republic, the time of Sulla, the great Julius Caesar, all those warlords era. And from 31 BCE to 460 CE, that's the era of the Roman Empire. So we are focusing on the last maybe 1 or 2 centuries of BCE and the first century of CE, Common Era. Roughly, say, 200 BCE to 100 CE. And so by 400 BCE, Rome consolidated, expanded to its power, its state power, the Italian peninsula, both south and northern, subsequently Italian peninsula. As a map, you can see this map of the way Roman consolidation happened. So the Roman consolidation or the expansionist movement has an environmental history, because that involved military movement, consistent military movement. Military movement or war of expansion required massive extraction of resources. Extraction of resources initially from the Italian peninsula, then subsequently when Roman Empire expanded to Central Europe and towards the north. So they started kind of massively extracting resources from those agricultural region, agrarian north of Alps. So so that's the the larger background, where we need to locate Roman and their idea of nature, because Roman history was equally a history of urban settlement and expansion. Urban here, by urban I mean expansion of roads, infrastructures, or including ports, settlements, pavements. So building of roads and ports and canals required massive deforestation. That means making of the Roman Empire required massive resource extraction. So that making of the empire as an kind of ecological project, that played a crucial role in shaping their idea of nature. And what was their idea of nature? They had a complex and contradictory view of or views of nature. If you see Roman calendar, Roman calendar has several days dedicated to divine nature. And if you read Roman literature, so there is a dominant tendency, there are contradictory tendency. On the one hand, Roman literature imagine nature as disintegration, inevitable disintegration of nature into the universe. So, for instance, if you read a great poet of Roman poet Lucretius, so let's read from Lucretius and to understand their idea of nature. Then we'll come to analysis. So Lucretius writes, "We alone have the power of controlling the most violent of nature's offspring, the sea and the wind, thanks to the science of navigation, and we use and enjoy many products of sea. Likewise, the entire command of the commodities produced on land is vested in humankind. We enjoy the fruits of the plains and of the mountains. The rivers and the lakes are ours. We sow corn, we plant trees, we fertilize the soil by irrigation, we confine the rivers and straighten or divert their course. In fine, by means of our hands, we create, as it were, a second world within the world of nature." So Lucretius located, as you can see in these lines, locates humankind as masters of nature. And this approach is not limited to human-nature relationship, but reflect how Roman elites perceived other human beings. Majority of them were slaves. We know that slaves were considered as instrumentum vocale, speaking tools. So, for instance, if you read another great poet, Varro's Rustica, in that work, he considers slaves as he literally classifies slaves alongside the animals and tools. So let me quote from him. There are three kinds of instruments: the articulate, that means slaves; the inarticulate, animals; and the mute, tools. So this was their understanding. So Roman Empire had a massive agriculture. Roman Empire was an agrarian empire, and Roman elites dominated that sector, a plantation agriculture, latifundia, run by solely by slaves. So, and the elite Romans had to justify slavery, and justifying slavery also produced their idea, their worldview, and their idea of nature. And they appropriated, in a sense, Aristotle's idea of natural slavery. So Aristotle, obviously viewed some people are meant to be slaves, naturally slave. So that idea they implemented both physically and cosmologically. That idea dominated. And that idea was visible in their family as well. So that pater familia, male head of a family, was ruling over wife, children, and slaves by nature. That their, moral fabric of that universe was that of domination of nature, of people. So, for instance, if you take the Roman concept of imperium, they believe that nature exists within the power of the ruler. Natural right to expand Roman Empire anywhere. That was their belief. So it was, nature exists within the power of a ruler, the omnipotent, the omnipresent, Caesar. Right. So at the same time, Roman idea of nature was deeply agrarian. That was, their idea of nature was tied to land, labor, and productivity. So we have great poet Virgil. So Virgil's Georgics is a famous poem. He lived between 70 and 19 BCE. So Georgics is a poem about farming, irrigation, then farm animals, weather science, and so on. It's a wonderful poem. I mean, if you are an environmental history student, I will recommend you to go, please read that poem. That will give you a wonderful idea of ancient society. So let me quote from Virgil. He writes, "Farmers pray for moist summer and mild winters. The crops are glad, the fields are glad of winter dryness." So So here you can see his respect for divine element of nature. That's one element. But at the same time, he also prioritized to show nature through the lens of material benefits, Roman materialism, everything in terms of luxury. And so he writes, I will begin to sing what keeps the wheat field happy, under what stars to plough the earth, and fasten vines to what care the oxen needs, what tending cattle require. So this this is kind of this here you can see Virgil consider nature as a resource base, something need to be enjoyed by group of people. So that's there. So let's consider another example. In the early spring, when icy waters flow from snowy hills and the crumbling soil loosen in a whistler breeze, then I would first have my oxen groaning over the driven flow, and then blade gleaming, polished by the furrow. So, so here you can see that language of utility and profit. That is part of Roman imperium, that emerging idea, the right of ruler, natural expansion, domination. And this idea of nature as something to be dominated is evident in their relationship to the forest. Their basic view of nature is evident in the way they understand forest. So on the one hand, they understood forest as dark and dismal place. You know, for instance, if you read great historian Tacitus, Tacitus writes Germany is a terrible forest land. That's a habitat of barbarians. So it was from this idea they initiated that massive expansion towards northern region, and the massive expansion included what we call deforestation. Deforestation means taming land, controlling barbarians. On the other hand, they also appreciated nature's beauty. They consider nature as real beauty, a pleasant place. That idea was also there. So, but that's not it. When you read some of the great philosophers of the time, the philosophers were warning against ruthless materialism of Romans, appropriate everything, bring them to metropolitan region, right? So that idea, or for instance, they were concerned about bleeding mountains and destructive mining or clear cutting of forest and extermination of plants. They were writing against that. For instance, in my previous lecture, I mentioned about Stoic philosophers. So Stoic philosophers lived, that Stoic philosophy was dominant in that early imperial period. So for them, there was a need to have consciousness to live with nature, follow nature's rule. They were warning against that excessive luxury they enjoyed. Same is visible when we read the great philosopher, writer Pliny the Elder. Pliny lived between 23 or 24 CE to 79 CE. So he made critical intervention. So, in his crucial reading that many of us are familiar, that book is titled Natural History. So natural history is a vast encyclopedia. It's a philosophical statement about relationship between nature and knowledge and human power. That's there. So humans, according to Pliny, has a weak constitution. Uh, Humans are threatened by natural world. That he is conscious of that dominant, that anthropocentric idea of dominance. For him, nature or translation, Latin translation, natura, is both divine and self-sufficient. The source of all life was nature. Nature is a source of order and wisdom. So in that work, he wanted to examine every detail of natural world. If you see the content page, you can see that, he discussed in one chapter, cosmos, earth, geography, then human beings and animals is another chapter, plants and agriculture, or medicine and pharmacology, minerals, art, luxury. So this encyclopedic range of natural history of Pliny uh, encompassed everything: physical world, moral, social, and artistic. Nature for Pliny was divine, but anthropomorphic, human image um, was always dominant. Human image in the sense this anthropomorphic figure gave her gift to man, who is her highest and more favorite creation. Humans as the best creation of God, right? Hierarchizing human. So we can see this appropriation of Pliny's idea or imperial idea of considering humans as the perfect creation of God in medieval Christian theology and their idea of nature. So we shall discuss Pliny and medieval Christian ideas of nature in our next video. Thank you.